Hey SB fam, carnivores, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Bella the Steak and Butter Gal. I hope you all are having a Gouda meat fuel day as always. Do update me on how you all are doing. How is your carnivore journey going? Down below in the comments by dropping an update. For today, I really wanted to try having a heart-to-heart conversation with a carnivore couple. And since my boyfriend Steak and Butter Guy is now carnivore, I thought it would be super suitable and eye-opening to have an open conversation with a fellow carnivore couple. So for my very first couple-to-couple conversation, carnivore couple-to-couple conversation, I really wanted to feature a couple that both my boyfriend and I really enjoy hearing from, really have a good friendship and relationship with, and that is Anthony Chaffee and Elle Marie. We actually had the pleasure to meet them in person. We hung out with them, we hiked with them, we had dinner with them when they came to visit Seattle recently, just this summer, and we absolutely fell in love with their whole mindset, how they approach the carnivore diet. So a little overview of what this conversation will cover. We really cover all aspects of carnivore living, how to be social, how to go out as a carnivore. We of course know that a lot of you guys watching are carnivore, but your significant others and families and people that you love are not. So we talk extensively on that topic as well, how best to convince your loved ones to consider and go carnivore. We also talk about Anthony and Elle's favorite places to shop for carnivore foods, all of their favorite go-to meals as a carnivore couple. Steak and Butter Guy and I, of course, show our favorite carnivore foods, and we're very excited to collaborate with Thrive Market to bring you guys some cheap, budget-friendly, high-quality carnivore options later on in this video. So before I invite them on, I just wanted to announce Dr. Chaffee will come back to the Steak and Butter Gang as a guest speaker to answer all of our personal questions, carnivore, health, weight loss, fat loss related questions, live on Zoom just for my community, the Steak and Butter Gang. So I do 30-day monthly carnivore challenges, and every single month I love to feature a different panel of guest speakers. And Dr. Chaffee will be on the panel for the November challenge, which I just opened up. All sign-up details are linked below in the description box. I'm going to put up the photo of the entire guest panel. It's going to feature Dr. Chaffee, Dr. Rachel Brown, a mental health expert, Professor Bart Kay, our resident scientist, and Dr. Joan Ifland, who is the food addiction and sugar addiction expert. If you want to ask questions and learn from any of the faces I just showed on the screen, I highly recommend you take advantage of the upcoming challenge because every month the guest panel changes. For more details and to directly sign up, just go to sbgmeetup.com or click the link down below in the description box. Without further ado, let me invite on my guests, Anthony and Elle. Anthony and Elle, how are you guys?
Hey, doing really well. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm so excited for this conversation. It's our first ever couple-to-couple conversation. I actually interviewed Dr. Chaffee twice before for my YouTube channel, and I'll make sure to link it down below in the description box. So today's video will kind of give us a lot more freedom to talk about couple-related carnivore topics. So I would love to open up the conversation more towards you, Elle. Were you carnivore before meeting Anthony? And if not, what convinced you to go carnivore?
I wasn't carnivore before I met Anthony. I think just hearing about all the benefits from it and learning quite a lot about it made me sort of start it and see how I went with it. And I really enjoyed it and I could see a lot of benefits from it. So I was pretty happy to start it and
Where are you?
Yeah, I was actually happy to do it. It was really hard in the beginning actually because my sugar cravings were quite severe, and I still struggle with it a little bit now. I'll get like tempted here and there, but I used to suffer from psoriasis and dermatitis and things like that, and that's all gone away since doing carnivore. Yeah, and I used to get things like restless legs syndrome like during the night and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot of good benefits that I've gotten out of it. I was happy to try something new, something different. Well,
it was also, a bit of osmosis because when she would come over, to my house and we would have dinner, like I'm not, there's no vegetables coming in my house. Right. And so we would just have steaks and she really liked that. She enjoyed that. Like when at other times she would eat other things, but when we were together, that's what she would eat. And so, the more we started spending time together, the more we started eating together and the more she started eating meat as well. And so she just naturally started eating more and more meat. and you know, and doing well with that. And then we sort of made a deal that she would just try it, you know, just try full on for a while and just see how she felt. And then she started doing that just because of that sort of bet and that agreement. And, you know, maybe there's a bit of pushback, like, I don't, you know, I'm doing this because I'm kind of, you know, made to. But, you know, after a while, you know, she still would talk about, like, you know, wanting fruit and this and that. Like, you do what you want, you're an adult, but, you know, and then she would have some that she wouldn't actually enjoy it as much as she remembered, and she wouldn't really feel great. And then she would sort of come back. And then after a while, you know, after the bet was off, she just started doing it herself on her own and just saying that, you know, actually she just felt a lot better and just everything was doing better. And then she actually wanted to do it once she saw that it actually did make her feel a lot better. So that was really good. So.
Yeah. And I'm someone that also suffers from, you know, very low iron. So having a lot more meat added into my everyday diet was definitely beneficial for me, in the sense that I was, you know, able to get a lot more energy to work and things like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Elle, you mentioned sugar cravings, and I think maybe this is something that Max and you can touch on together. One of his biggest hurdles was overcoming his sugar cravings and his sugar addiction.
I haven't done it yet either. I still think about it. Actually, I was like listening to you guys talk, and I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, you guys had it real easy, because for us, there was definitely a very tumultuous period, to the point where our differences in food extended towards, like, you know, other differences as well. Like, it created a fracture at a point, because for me, there was nothing she could do to convince me. I've never even heard of carnivore before meeting her, ever. And for the first couple months, you know, living together, especially when now we're seeing so much of each other, I was like, what is she doing? And you know, she told me of the benefits and all, but I was just like, I wanted to stay away from this as far as possible. There was a period of time where I was just totally rejected the idea that the carnivore was the way to go. So,
well, I mean, so we sort of gave the truncated version, but I mean, this is the course of like 9 months. This went over, you know, so there was a lot of stuff in between there, and I think there was, you know, there was sort of that when I say it was sort of a bit of a pushback, it was almost like a rebellious teenager going like, you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, you know? There was a bit of that as well.
So, you know, so there was a bit of that also. You know, and then sometimes, well, you know, she would just be, well, I want to eat this, I want to do that. And it's just, I had to just tell her, like, not in like, I try not to be in like a mean way, but it's just like, look, you know, this is something I think is very important. And it's like, if people don't know and they don't know better and they're just doing the best they can, that's one thing. But if somebody, like, you know, knows that, you know, this is bad for them and this is addictive and this is harming them and they do it anyway, like, that's just kind of unattractive to me. I mean, that's like people who smoke or do drugs in excess, you know, it's just like, that's just not really appealing to me. You know, I like to take care of myself. I try to do things that are healthy and take care of my body. And I don't like, you know, I'll drink once a year, once every 18 months, but you know, that's not the same thing as like doing this constantly because, like, oh, I just don't care and whatever. I just think that's sort of an unattractive attitude. And I sort of expressed that to her. And so we definitely had, you know, a bit of a back and forth. You know, so it wasn't smooth sailing the whole time. I was able to get her to eat more meat pretty easily just because I was the one cooking. And so that's not hard, but you know, we weren't together all the time. And, you know, so she would do whatever she wanted to do otherwise, which is fine. But she did start eating more and more meat because of that. And she did understand the concept as well. There was definitely, you know, rough periods in there as well. It wasn't just smooth sailing, certainly. So don't think that yours is a unique situation. You know, they're very different. They're very different lifestyles, and you know, it goes counter to everything that we all grew up learning and being told. And so it takes a lot of convincing to come around to that. And so, you know, we just said, you know, Belle and I have come across things in very specific ways that were really convincing to us. And then we looked into it a lot further. And so we were able to reinforce that. But, you know, not everybody has that big awakening moment. You know, it takes a longer time to to sort of wear down the old philosophies and learning and understand like, okay, yeah, there's something very different here. And it actually makes a very big difference and it's important.
Yeah. I'm curious, Elle, as a young female, right? We inevitably feel like animal fats, butter is bad for us, right? So how did you get over that initial hurdle? Was that even a hurdle for you, eating more animal fats?
I don't think that was a hurdle for me. No, I've always loved eating fats. So that definitely wasn't a hurdle for me.
But that is very common.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why a lot of especially like adolescent girls go vegetarian, because they're going through puberty, they're in this high school, junior high sort of thing, and there's boys around that are now interested, or whomever, they're interested in some sort of relationship sort of modality. And they're like, well, I want to be attractive. I don't want to be fat. And if that makes you fat, oh my God, I'm not going to eat fat. Anything with fat in it, I'm not going to have. And so that they start canceling out meat or just eating like lean chicken breasts. And that's a very, very, very common thing for girls to do. And then
Yes.
being really worried about eating fat. So yeah. And I think that honestly, has a big implication in eating disorders as well. You're avoiding things that are very healthy, but you're craving them. You're like, you're looking at fatty things as like something you really want. And maybe you'll splurge because your body's like screaming at you to eat this stuff. And then you go like, oh my God, I can't believe I ate that. And, people might end up purging after that, or they just avoid it entirely. But vegetables and these other things don't make them feel that hot. And so they just don't eat those at all. And they become anorexic and just don't eat anything. And I mean, that's just me spitballing, but I think that, the increase in eating disorders of that nature has increased significantly since this advent of saying fat's bad for us. And so I think that there's something going on there to influence that.
Yeah, I myself was a sufferer, a victim of that, following the trends, going vegan myself for 6 years. You guys who are watching all know my story. That's why I wanted to ask Elle if she kind of went down that same path, made those same mistakes. So it looks like you did not. So these days, right? So you guys are a carnivore couple. What's a typical day of eating for both of you, and who is doing the cooking now?
Well, we'll both do cooking, but I do a lot of the cooking just because I'm used to it. Elle's seen how I prepare steaks and salt them and rest them and dry them and cook them. So she's really good at it now too. So sort of interchange, but we both do it like this. Sort of earlier in the week, we did a smoked brisket, like a big Costco smoked brisket. So like that's been like feeding us for the last 4 days now, and there's still a ton of it left. And so we still sort of most would eat once a day, like a big sort of dinner meal, maybe, grab a couple pieces on the way out the door in the morning and of leftovers.
And I've started making those little pork chips as well.
Right. Yeah.
So I make like little dried pork chips that we sort of snack on during the day.
So what you do is you take pork tenderloin and you freeze it, and then you bring it out and you let it start to thaw, but it's still really firm. But you get something that has a guard and a very sharp blade that can get these very thin slices. So you get these very, very thin slices, like a millimeter or two, and you slice these up and you put them on drying racks. And we got a food dryer, food dehydrator, and you can either lightly salt them there or dry it all up, throw it in a bowl, and then sort of toss it with some salt. Yeah. And they, if you do it thin enough, they have like the texture and feel of like Lay's potato chips.
Yeah.
But they taste like, meat, and they are meat. And so it's actually quite nice. So we sort of snack on that sometimes. I don't really do too much snacking, because if I'm hungry enough to snack, I tend to just eat a meal and sort of just polish it off. But we'd use that when we're traveling as well. We get like a bunch of Ziploc bags full of those, and then we have those on the plane, and to just have that, because we're not eating too much of the airplane food.
Normally what I do like for breakfast is I will cook up like bits of bacon, and I've started putting them into like a sandwich press, so it cooks them like really crispy on both sides and really quickly as well. So I'll do that, and then I like to snack during the day because I'm on my feet almost all day with working in the hair industry. Oh, wow. So I'm constantly on my feet. And then we do something really big for dinner, like just a big steak or whatever we have.
I'm just listening to them and just thinking like, wow, I feel like for us, we just had more hurdles, maybe because I'm much more kind of difficult to work with. But, back to what you guys were saying about like the pancakes and things. I think, it's important to remember that health is seldom the reason why people eat what they eat.
Right.
Even when you're talking about, these teenage girls and they want to lose weight and they think that eating vegetable or whatever is the quickest, most efficient way to get there. That's kind of like aesthetic driven, right? And it's like people don't really care what's actually happening internally. People eat for all kinds of reasons. Maybe it's the taste that they got accustomed to growing up. Maybe it's for social reasons. It can be any number of reasons, but health is typically not really one of the considerations, like real health, right? With me and Bella, again, like I didn't really have any reason to switch to eating carnivore. In fact, at the time, I was looking at my life thinking that in every sense, because food, what we eat, serves so many different purposes, that it would actually be a huge detriment to my life. I was like, everything's going to have to adjust, right? In terms of, friends, family, even, so for me, I don't know if Elle, maybe you share this experience, but I just got to the point where I was thinking, if for nothing else, this person in my life that's very, very important, having them have such a special relationship with this way of eating, that I should at least feign interest, right? And what that really means is kind of like opening up your mind and considering the idea that maybe this is the way to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree. Like it's good to be open-minded, and you want to do something. You want to interact, and you want to be on the sort of same path as your partner as well, so that you can bond and form a strong bond. So definitely keeping an open mind helps. And we have great fun making food.
But that's the thing too. We do cook together, and so like when we make the pork chips, like we would make those together as well. And so we're talking, hanging out, and spending time together while we're doing that as well. So it's still a social, meaningful interaction as well. And so I'm like doing the slicing, and she's like stacking them up, and we're talking the whole time. So it can be interactive there as well. And obviously you can make that as social interactive or as little as you want to. And sometimes you just have to cook and you have to get things done, and okay, just stay out of the kitchen. Like my mom would always say, it's just like, nope, kitchen's mine, get out, everyone out of the kitchen. And sometimes you're just in that mood, but that also is a good thing about just this in general, is because normally what we're eating is just a steak, and we take it out, we put it on the pan or the grill, and it's like 6 minutes and you're done. And so it actually does speed things up from that standpoint as well. Whereas like otherwise you're getting ingredients, you're chopping vegetables, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're sauteing this, you're browning that, you're putting all these ingredients together to get this dinner, this big presentation. My mom would growing up would spend 3 hours making this like fabulous dinner like every night. And obviously, and she was just like everyone out of the kitchen. Like when she was cooking, it was like you were just not allowed to be there. Wow. And so, that would take a huge amount of time. And so that at least, as busy as we are, and as much of this, as much of our time as this and our other work takes up from us, that at least has cut down on time as well, which is good.
Well, for me, making pork chips would never be a date night idea anyways, because I'm super lazy in the kitchen. I go the shortest route, and I usually just batch cook a bunch of food for both of us. And so carnivore eating is done for the day each day. But I would love to talk about, what about like special occasions and you want to do something special for each other? It's a holiday. Do you guys do date nights?
Yeah, we do. We go out to restaurants and stuff like that.
I think we've made it as a date.
Not as specific, like daily, weekly thing, but
we go to dinner and things like that.
Special occasions we will.
Yeah, and so like we went out for Elle's birthday last week. Happy birthday!
Oh, happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
And so so we went out to. There's like the Crown Casino, which is in Perth. There's really only one casino. It's this big massive thing, and they have a lot of restaurants there.
Epicurean.
The Epicurean, where it's like a buffet style, like a casino buffet style. It's not like the Vegas buffet by any stretch of the imagination, but it's good for Perth. And and so they have a bunch of stuff, and so we would go there because they have a lot of meat options as well. And so they'll have like like roast beef, and they call it Wagyu. I see a drip of fat in this thing, so I don't know like how they're calling it. It's like Wagyu hoof or something like that. But like it's they do have a lot of meat options, and it's like sashimi and things and oysters. Like we were out last night with my neurosurgical department. And we just got steaks, pretty easy.
And it's so funny, everyone actually looked over and they're like, they were all hating the meal that they had, and they looked over at ours and like, wow, your meal looks so good. And we're like, it's just a steak. But it was really good.
Well, I think they were hating it after they saw our steaks. Because they were like, oh yeah, I got the pasta with beef cheek, and I was like, actually sounded pretty good, but it's more pasta than beef cheek. And so they were going there eating like, oh yeah, it's great, and they were like looking over, and like everyone did just keep looking over like, wow, that smells really good. And I was like, yeah, I'll keep telling you, like you could have ordered it. It was on the menu. And so then they were like regretting their decision after that.
But when shopping for meat, what are the guidelines that you guys go by? Do you go with grass-fed and grass-finished, or whatever you can find?
I would like to. That would be my preference, but at the moment we just go to Costco and just get like the grass-finished stuff, or sorry, the grain-finished stuff. Only grass-fed, grass-finished stuff around here is quite expensive. Sometimes you'll find other things you can tell it's grass-finished because the fat will be like a deep yellow, or yellowy orange even, and so I'll sort of pick that stuff up. And but normally it's just grain finished, but I do like grass finished stuff. I think that it has a nicer flavor, and like the real grass-fed, grass-finished stuff, especially like an older cow. I don't know if this was a virtue of just, eating thick green grass all year or being older and having done that. But I bought a cow from just in Eastern Washington in Cle Elum, and they do 100% grass their whole life of this cow. And I asked them for an older cow if they were going to cull one from the herd, and if I could get that. And so this one is 10 years old. And it was the best tasting meat I've ever had in my life. And it had this smell to it. I don't know what it was, but it just smells fresh and amazing. And I'd never smelled it before, but something, in my lizard brain was saying, this is it,
Wow.
and it just tasted amazing. And it had such a deeper, richer, beefier flavor that it really overshadowed it. A taste test between a piece of prime New York strip, and then like a T-bone from this, the New York part of the T-bone of this older cow. And I started with the prime cut, and it was amazing. And I remember thinking, God, I just love this diet. It's amazing. This is so good. This meat's delicious. And then I tried and then I went over to the older cow, and I was like, yeah, this is just so good too. It's amazing. And I had another bite and another bite, had another bite of the older cow. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'll switch back and try the other one. I couldn't even taste it. I couldn't even taste the beef flavor. It was completely overshadowed by the grass fed one. The older cows have a more intense flavor. And I could taste the richness because it was much fattier, because it had a lot of marbling, in that prime cut. But I could taste that richness of the fat, but I couldn't actually taste any beef flavor. It was very strange. And so that's just sort of a testament of how I think because you're packing in more nutrients is the idea. And that's why it has more flavor, because you're tasting more of these nutrients that you want and you need. And so, and I felt supercharged. Anytime I had that meat, I was just teeming with energy the rest of the day, even though it had less fat. I felt amazing on it. So that would be my preference if I could do that. If I could source an older cow that was grass-fed its whole life here in Australia, I would jump on it in a second. But not having access to that, which I've not had access yet. I've had a lot of near access, but never actually come to fruition. Then I'm happy with just grain finished as well. That's fine.
What about you, Elle? Can you taste the difference between grain finished, grass finished, older, younger cow?
I personally can't, but I don't know if that's because I haven't been doing it for as long.
Well, you haven't had one of the older cows though.
Yeah.
So that was in Seattle. I sourced that in Seattle before I moved to Australia.
Gotcha.
So But yeah,
maybe next time we're back, we can try and source
we'll
it, and then I can see if I can taste the difference.
I don't know if we could bring a whole cow back or eat it while we're there. We'll just eat it while we're there, finish it off.
So since we're on the topic of carnivore shopping and sourcing, I thought I would share with you guys my favorite place to shop for carnivore diet supplies, snacks, everyday items. And that is Thrive Market. As you guys can see on this box, Thrive Market is basically an online one-stop shop to get everything you need for carnivore diet foods and everyday household supplies. And it is eco-friendly, toxin-free. So there's no fragrances, it is hypoallergenic. Basically, all of their household supplies are very compatible with my sensitive carnivores who are allergic to anything that is harsh, any chemicals. So I'll show you guys what I love to get from Thrive Market. I got more of these grass-fed beef sticks. These are so good. Even I enjoy the flavor of them, and I usually don't eat any snacks and processed carnivore foods anymore, but the ingredients are clean, the flavor is good, it's not too salty for my taste. It's grass-fed, grass-finished beef sticks, very high quality. They're seasoned, so it's nice and flavorful. And the next thing that I got, I am super excited to try. It is pure tallow premium cooking oil made with 100% grass-fed beef. It is from the brand Fatworks. I don't know why I didn't notice this on their website, but when I came across this, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get it because this could be a perfect high-fat option for my sensitive carnivores who cannot tolerate butter and they cannot tolerate ghee, which is very possible. Some of my autoimmune healers and long-haul healers on the carnivore diet can't even tolerate ghee because that still flares them up. You guys are gonna see this bottle of tallow show up many times in my next videos. And finally, the last product that I stocked up on is this laundry detergent, an everyday household item. We use it all the time. And if you can swap it for something that is clean, hypoallergenic, and free of chemicals and harsh toxins, why not? This is Thrive Market's very own household item line called Rosie, and they offer all types of different everyday household supplies. I have very sensitive skin, so I do have to prioritize products that have no harsh chemicals, that are fragrance-free. And the entire Rosie line is fragrance-free, free of harsh chemicals, toxin-free, sulfate-free, and it's eco-friendly and hypoallergenic. If you guys are interested in shopping at Thrive Market and checking out what they have to offer, you all can get a free $60 gift by going to thrivemarket.com/steakandbuttergal. I've also linked it down below in the description box if you want a clickable link. I'm very impressed with their consistent high quality, great customer service. They're very fast with shipping, and of course the deals. You get such good, cheap, budget-friendly deals. You can even filter your search options, like only keto diet friendly options. And I know a lot of you guys have kids and family members who are on the keto diet. This would be a great place to see what you can try and shop for. Keto-friendly snacks, and a lot of the things that pop up are also carnivore diet friendly. So it's a great way to shop efficiently and to see what's new and exciting that you can try out for your kids, for your family members that are healthy and nutritious. Also, it filters out the vegan crap, and we all love that. I've linked it down below in the description box.
I'm here thinking like this is so rare to have couples where both individuals are carnivore. Mm-hmm. That's really rare. I feel like most carnivore individuals in a relationship, they are the person who's eating this way. It almost felt like I was trying to compete my relationship with, my relationship with Bella with like my relationship with people who are not carnivore, which comprise 99% of my personal connections. So I was just wondering for Elle, like what was it specifically that really got you to be self-motivated? Because we all know that like external pressure is just not enough. It may be enough to get you started and take the first step on carnivore, but eventually you will quit if you're not self-motivated. If there's not something coming from within, personal reason to eat this way. So Elle, I was just wondering, like, what was that breaking point for you where you're just like, this is something that I want to do for myself. I don't even care if my boyfriend is eating carnivore or not. This is just something that I want to do.
I think for me, it was a gradual thing. I don't think there was one thing in particular that made me go hardcore. With like all my friends were quite supportive with it. I didn't really have anyone going, oh, that's really silly. Like you shouldn't be doing that. you just have some of this. Like I didn't really have any of that. Everyone was quite supportive. So it was really easy for me, I think, noticing all the benefits from it. And especially like going to the gym, working out, and then noticing that I didn't get sore. I think maybe that one was one of the biggest things that I noticed. I was like, oh, wow, I can go way harder than I could before. And not be sore. And I think that for me, that was like a wow, like this is actually really cool. But yeah, I think it was more just a gradual thing for me, and just noticing little things along the way and all the benefits from it that made it easier for me to do it.
Do you think that failure is an important part of the process to acclimate to the point where this is not only a diet, but a way of eating?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Like you do want to persist at something. You don't want to sort of give up. You want to have that self-control and know that you're in charge of your body and your cravings and things like that. So not letting yourself down is a big thing, but also just, putting it in your head as well that it is the way of eating. It is a good, healthy lifestyle.
But also, like when you came off it and you actually felt like garbage, that was reaffirming for you as well, because I don't like feeling like that. And so I think that can be very helpful, and I don't think it's a failure by any stretch of the imagination to come off of it. You can just use that as a learning tool and just focus on it and just be like, and I always ask people, like, how did you feel? And when you came off, it was fine, everything was this. It's like, okay, so you had the same energy, you weren't sore. Well, actually, you know what? I actually was a bit sore after the gym, and I actually did kind of have energy levels. And then when they start really thinking about it, they notice that there's more and more differences, and then it's in their head. And then if they slip up, and then they start saying like, wow, I actually really do feel a lot better. And then they eat something that's sort of outside of that. And then they notice the differences, and they notice that they're not feeling as good as they were. And I think that can be very beneficial to reaffirm this. I mean, that's exactly why I have no interest in eating any of this stuff, because I've sort of tried it, and I've sampled in. I'm like, okay, what does this do to me? And what is this? And it's like a little bit of spices, a little bit of seasoning, and I paid attention. And all of a sudden, 20 minutes later, I was just like, my nose was a bit stuffy and itchy, and my asthma was acting up a little bit. And I was just like, well, okay, I don't like that. Or I'm sore for 2 days after a cup of coffee. I'm like, right, not doing that. And so for me, that was very good to help reinforce that. Like I knew everything, from an intellectual point of view, like this is bad for me. There's things in there that are bad for me, but then seeing it in real life was very powerful for me. And that's why I said, oh, wouldn't you just want a little bit? And it's like, no, God, no, why? No, because like, I know how I don't want to feel. I don't want that. So it's like, if you're an animal in the wild and you go and you eat something that's outside of your diet, you eat something plant, and you just start feeling really crummy and sore, and you're just like, oh no, never eating that again. Absolutely not. And that's why that's there. That's how animals build up an aversion to this. And that's how plants survive. And so I've definitely noticed that. And like the reason I'm very adamant about this, that being as strict as I am, is because I've tried that, and it made me feel bad, and I don't like it. And so I don't want to do it. So I think that's a very important piece of information for people to get.
Definitely.
I also always have in the back of my mind, like, because I did suffer from psoriasis and dermatitis, like I don't want that to come back again, because it was so bad to the point where I was having to put ointment on it every day, and it just wouldn't go away. And I had it ever since I was, a very young child.
I've always believed that people don't realize how bad they feel on things like sugar until they give it up for a period of time. Like I went 20 years consuming sugar on an almost daily basis, and I never really realized how much it was affecting me. I really didn't feel it at all. Now, after my first attempt doing carnivore, which lasted like 10 days or less, I had like an ice cream or something like that, probably. I remember the next morning waking up and I felt horrible. Now, I'm not a drinker, but I've, just like most people, I've had the experience of having a little too much to drink. And it was a very similar feeling. It was a very, very similar feeling, just like incredibly hungover. It was horrible. People, especially if they don't have the added incentives of having like an autoimmune issue, or having a partner with whom they're in a relationship with that's all in carnivore, it's important for these people to slip up, because that feeling is not something you want to deal with again. Every single time I've slipped up, I'm like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not doing this again. And clearly I have.
You still slip up.
I still slip up, but it's all about like frequency, right?
I just noticed my body works better and I feel better. And when I, came back to this, 5 years ago, and I looked back on my life, and I realized like that's what I was doing in my early 20s that made me feel so amazing. And then when I slipped off of that, when I was like 25 in England, that that's what it was. I was like, I remember thinking in England, I was like, why don't I feel as just superhuman amazing as I normally do? Am I just not working out as hard? Am I not pushing myself? Am I, I'm 25 now. So am I just over the hill? Am I dying now? And my body's just giving up. I actually thought that. I was like, what is happening? So I was getting aches and pains. I was getting sore. I never got sore. I was getting like, groin pulls and different sorts of aches in my knee. I was just like, what the hell is happening? Like, this is not my body. And I was thinking I was getting some weird injuries. No, it was just the buildup of this poison again in my body that I hadn't experienced in 5 years at that point. So now even these minor aches and pains that normally people deal with every day, that was abnormal. That was severely abnormal to me, going like, I must have an injury. I might need surgery or something like that. It was very weird. Totally. And, and then looking back, being like, that's why I felt so amazing. That makes sense now. And then when I was looking at it in a very conscious way, and I saw just how much better I felt and just how much better I performed, and how my body habitus was just transforming. I was getting much more muscular and leaning out significantly. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, just looking back in my life and realizing that I'd felt awful my entire life, and I just didn't realize it. Mm-hmm. Now I could see it. I was on the outside of it going like, I had no idea. It's like someone who grows up in an abusive household and they don't realize, because it's just normal to them. They know it's awful, or that's just, I guess life is awful. And then they go out and they get into healthy relationships with good people that actually care about them. They're like, oh my God, this is what it's supposed to be like. This is so much nicer. And then they can actually see how bad their previous life was. And so that's how I think about it. And some people say, well, I don't really have a problem. I don't really have any major issues. I feel good. It's like, well, you feel good compared to yourself. Yes. But you don't actually realize how bad you actually feel. And when you get this stuff out of you, you'll look back on your life and go, oh my God, I had no idea.
That was precisely, I think, what convinced me. That time we had dinner together, and you're like, this is Stockholm syndrome, typical Stockholm syndrome. and like, that's why it's really important, to have people to listen to and to have like-minded people around, because in a way you have to outsmart yourself a little bit. Most people think they know what's best for them. I know that I do, but clearly not all the time, so definitely I think it's important to recognize that these things that feel normal may not actually be normal. Yeah. I think our investment still to this day in the carnivore diet clearly is on a different level.
I think it's personality type too. I'm very A-type. I know what I want and I will easily make it happen once I know. But and I'm also an abstainer. So maybe because he's more of a moderator, you're able to have a little bit of carbs and some sweets and then a lot of meat too, if you wanted to. For me, I just binge. So I know that I cannot go down that path.
And the thing is that, like Belle and I've sort of been doing this a lot longer, and we're very committed to it. And so like if she or I sort of had some little weak moment, like that would be just more devastating to us, because we really have dedicated a lot to this. Yeah. Whereas like you haven't yet, you're still playing with it and testing it out and testing the waters and seeing what it's like. For me, I know exactly how poisonous this is. I know exactly how bad it is. I know exactly how horrible it's going to make me feel. And so I would be really disappointed in myself if I made some bonehead move and just ate something nummy and then felt like crap for the next 2 weeks. That would bother me. My only concession to that would be alcohol occasionally. And like I'd have like maybe just like vodka and water, and like literally once the last time I drank was a year ago this month. And I've never had an issue or desire to drink since then. Because as soon as I drank then, I did that because I was with, my best friend, who I grew up playing rugby with down in Arizona. And like, we were hanging out for like a few days. And like on the last night we just went out and we're hanging out, and he was having some drinks, and you could tell he was just sort of like sitting there, just sort of like, just hanging out, having a drink by himself. And I was just like, yeah, so we doing shots or like what? He's like, what? we went and I'm like, let's go, like line them up, and so we had fun, and that was fine. And I wasn't hungover the next day, and I felt fine. I was just a bit more tired, but I felt run down and kind of crummy the rest of the month, and I don't like that. And so the whole time I'm like, why did I do that? That was so stupid, and I could have had just as much fun without it. I'm like, God, why? Yeah. And then I had that to think about the whole month. And so that's pretty good to reinforce. And that's why you're so, that actually served a purpose, right? Like that had a much better result from drinking that and feeling crummy than, having some lettuce, or broccoli or some pizza or something stupid like that, which is like, a moment on the lips, forever on the hips. It's just like, it goes away so quickly. Whereas with the other side of things, I had a great night, the whole night. It was good. It was fun, but, and it's just, and so, but something has to be worth a month of my life, to make that worth it to me. And, and so that's the thing. So I make that trade-off. Like, I know I'm going to do this, but have that, but I still regret it. And the next day I'm like, oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I even do that? And, so doing that with something that's much less interesting is probably going to be, a problem. And just because, we are sort of pretty deep into this, if we sort of mess up, I mean, that's a bigger slip than someone, who is just still sort of coming around to the idea and sort of seeing how it fits within their life. So that I could definitely see, not that she has, but if she did, she'd be pretty pissed. Like I would be pretty pissed too, But have you been, man? Like, you've been working out more, I heard. And
man, I've been taking your advice. I've been hitting them legs heavy.
Nice.
I actually really enjoy it now. This actually does have some form of relationship to eating carnivore, because I would always avoid exercising my legs. I would always have like lower back pain, hip pain, knee pain. It would really be prohibitive. It wouldn't allow me to perform any kind of lower body movement. Carnivore has helped me with a lot. In terms of joint pain and inflammation, definitely a big difference. I don't use any kind of wrist straps or knee compression anymore, which were things that, like, I would go in the gym, I'd look ridiculous. I'd have all my joints protected, it would look pretty funny, like thinking this kid's going to lift, like, about to do like a 500-pound squat. I'm there with all that protection, hitting like
body weights.
Pretty much. Honestly, like pretty much. So that has definitely helped a lot. And it's helped me be more kind of sensitive towards like how my body's feeling. I'm now keenly aware of the differences between kind of like muscular issues or inflammation issues, which before I thought they were synonymous.
If your muscles are stronger around the joint, it does support it more. And so even with people eating a normal diet and with horrible arthritis, they will reduce their pain by strengthening their legs. It's paradoxical because it hurts to do that. But at the same time, if you fight through the pain, you get through it. After a couple of weeks, you'll get to the other side of it, where actually things are getting better and better and better and better.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that before. Wait, so what you're saying is, if you start off doing a movement, you have, like, let's say bench press, you have elbow pain. If you were to push through that to an extent, that would actually create a response in the body to become stronger in the joints. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, it can. So when you strengthen the muscles around the joint, it's going to support the joint more. And so if you have pain in that joint, like specifically from arthritis, right? Because that's the wearing down and degradation of the cartilage. And so now, because cartilage doesn't have any nerve, so it doesn't have any feeling, right? So it doesn't matter what you're doing. But once you wear through that, you start getting down to the bone, you start making it friction on bone. That's painful, because bones have a lot of nerves. And so you'll definitely feel that. And that can be very painful. And so people with arthritis pain, they end up doing less because it's painful to do anything. And so their muscles atrophy, which makes the joint less protected and less stable, which makes it clatter around more and have more friction and bone on bone irritation, and that makes the pain worse, which makes them do less, which makes the pain worse. And so you actually have to sort of fight against that and sort of swim upstream for a while and push through the pain to strengthen up the muscles, even though that arthritis pain is getting worse. Now, if you're having joint pain for other reasons, inflammation or from damaged tendons, or maybe you have an actual injury, that can be a little different. You have to be careful. You obviously don't want to injure yourself. If your body's screaming at you, going like, "Oops, something's wrong here," you should probably listen to that, because you can injure yourself. But if you do have sort of like a sore joint or something like that, doing lighter weights that you can handle and slowly building up, it can absolutely help that. When I have a shoulder injury or something like that, like I know to start strengthening up my shoulders, or because I've been playing sports for a long time, and I've banged up shoulders just from hitting the hell out of people as hard as possible, and so I'll get that sore if I don't keep up my training, keep doing some shoulder exercises. My shoulders will hurt and they'll ache, and I can't sleep on my side. It will be very painful, and so and my lower back, like I've had lower back pain since I was 15, and if I'm able to, and it's not. Well, I don't even know if I have arthritis, but like I had like a pancake L4, L5, S1 disc, and L4-5 was pretty desiccated as well when I was 20 on an MRI. They weren't gone, but it was very compacted, and God knows what it is now. Hopefully, it's not too horrible. But I do know that I have much less back pain. Like if I eat any sort of carbs or anything like that, like my back kills for like 4 days. And I haven't done that in years, but it's like had some rice that just sort of slipped in, or just sort of on a piece of meat. I was like trying to scrape it off, like a bit of rice, a bit of beans, and my back, it felt like someone was stabbing me in the spine for like 4 days. And to the point that it was actually very difficult to get out of bed. I couldn't actually support myself and get myself up. I had to like push myself up from the side and like get up to a sitting position and then get out of bed that way when I was upright. It was really bad. And then it goes away. So I have a bit of lower back discomfort now, but it's nothing like it was when I was eating a standard diet. But still, it'll be uncomfortable sometimes, and that's when I know, like, okay, I've been neglecting my exercises. And so when I do sort of lower back exercises and sort of back raises, then that goes away, and it just supports those joints a lot better, and the pain goes away because it's more supported by the muscles. That's a big part of back pain, musculoskeletal driven back pain.
I'm guessing you guys don't have a lot of carnivore friends personally there in Australia. So how do you navigate socializing, eating out with friends? At first, you can feel self-conscious about it, but then you realize that no one actually cares, and maybe when they're first seeing it, they're like, "Oh, wait, what you don't?" And you just say like, "Yeah, no, I don't eat that stuff." And they'll ask questions, and they'll think you're weird for a while, and they get over it, and they never bring it up again. And so, all my friends are well aware of what I eat. There was no transition. They met me as a carnivore. They know me as a carnivore. And so, at least in Australia, most of them actually, because I actually did know people here, before that from medical school and from playing rugby. Actually, one of the guys that I played professionally with in England actually was in Perth when I got here. So it was cool to reconnect with him. He's a good dude. And so, when talking to them, it's just like, yeah, this is what I do. And they're just interested in like, oh, okay. Yeah. And, they seem in good shape and, makes sense to them. And, some of them were doctors and they're like, okay, yeah, that does make sense. And maybe they'll try that. A lot of them have tried that. Mm-hmm. And from whatever social pressures, maybe they've been able to stick with it or not. But there have been several that have. It's actually pretty cool. One of my bosses, who's director of training here in the neurosurgical department, he ended up asking me a lot of questions about carnivore when we were operating together, and he's like, "Yeah, it makes sense. It really makes sense." And so he tried it, and he's been doing it. Sort of, he dips in and out. He'll have, he'll go to dinner. He might indulge every now and then, but he's most of the time just eating just a ton of meat, and same with his girlfriend. And so we actually started talking about doing like a research project for our brain cancer patients and seeing about maybe getting them on this, because there's a lot of animal models showing the efficacy of of putting people in therapeutic ketosis and helping GBM brain cancers in animal models. And there's a lot of and just the cancer biology functionally, is such that would make a lot of sense to limit carbohydrates, among other things. And there's anecdotal sort of examples of a lot of people who have survived well past the expected time frame for this GBM, with or without treatment. And some of these people have never had treatment or have had surgery like debulking, but they never had
They never had chemo radiation. And with the diagnosis of GBM, if you don't get chemo radiation, like let's say you don't get surgery as well, the average life expectancy is 3 months, so it's very aggressive, very, very aggressive. Wow. And so these people only got surgery. They never had anything else. And some of these people are 6, 8, even 10 years out and without treatment. And that's unheard of. And so there's actually a study that's starting up in England at Charing Cross Hospital, that one of these survivors, it's 10 years now, just on keto carnivore. That's it. It was the only treatment he's had besides debulking surgery. He's trying to do this with human subjects, get them on like a keto diet. Wow. and see the results. So, I sort of proposed that to my department, and we're going to actually come up with an actual proposal to the department and present that later this month. So, as a very circuitous, tangential way, people are fine with it, and they end up actually being sort of actually liking it and asking questions, and then they might get into it or might not. But at the end of the day, whether or not they like it and want to know more about it for themselves, or they just don't really care enough to care what we're doing, it doesn't become an issue. We just go places and people order what they order.
Yeah, I think there's like Anthony said, there's always meat options on the menu, whether it be bacon, chicken, beef, whatever it is. There's always that option, and eggs. And then when it comes to like hot drinks, like I know a lot of people go out and they have coffee and they socialize sort of that way. You can always have just warm water or hot milk. There's always that option as well, which I do. So yeah, and I don't know, I think most people are pretty fine with it. I mean, you get a lot of people these days that do no carbs anyway. So a lot of the time they're not ordering bread, and they're just ordering, the meat with maybe a little bit of veggies on the side. Yes. But yeah, you probably find that most of the time people don't even eat the veggies anyway.
No, it sucks.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Again, Dr. Anthony Chaffee will be a guest speaker in my next 30-day carnivore challenge in November. So if you would like to submit your personal questions about anything carnivore diet related, personal health issues, fat loss for Dr. Chaffee to answer live, please do make sure to sign up for my next carnivore challenge. I invite different panels of guest speakers every single month. So if you want to learn from Dr. Chaffee exclusively, or if you want to submit questions for any of the faces that I'm showing on the screen, I would take advantage of the upcoming challenge, as the guests change every single month. In addition to these awesome guest Q&As, I also host 7 to 8 weekly live Q&As with my team of carnivore coaches to help you troubleshoot and stay on track. We have weekly meetings on just fat loss and fitness, weekly meetings on just fasting, priming, and carnivore health concerns. So we really try to cover all aspects of health and wellness as a carnivore in these 30-day carnivore challenges. If you're looking for a reliable place to get information, answers to your carnivore questions, and troubleshooting along every step of your carnivore journey, the Steak and Butter Gang is really the place to be. You also get access to 24/7 chat boxes where you can drop your comments, updates, questions, and you will get help from fellow community members and experts. I do these 30-day carnivore challenges in the Steak and Butter Gang every single month. So anytime you want some extra help, just go to SBGmeetup.com for more details and to sign up for the next 30-day carnivore challenge. For anyone who is new to carnivore and they want more of both of you guys, where can they find you?
Well, my main thing is just my YouTube channel, just Anthony Chaffee MD. I have an Instagram by the same name, and then my podcast is the Plant Free MD, and that's on any podcast platform that you care to look at. And I have sort of a couple other little things in there as well, but all those links will be there. So those are the main three. And then if people want to find more, there's links for more as well. And then Elle actually started her own. She has her own Instagram as well.
All in the description box. Yes. Yeah. And you started a new podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I started a new podcast called God, What Am I Doing? So that's one. And then I have my own one, which I've started as well, called Entrepreneur in the Making. But I haven't put a lot of time into it. Actually, I need to get onto that a little bit more and post up a few videos that I've got.
And what is God, What Am I Doing about?
God, What Am I Doing? That one is about just everyday, life things and how to get through life with like a godly experience, perspective on it as well. Yeah. And then the Entrepreneur in the Making one is about you know, stuff that I went through in my life to sort of make me the entrepreneur that I am today, and then sort of tips and tricks on how to sort of have that mindset as well. So yeah.
Wow. So Elle, do you have your own hair store?
Yeah, I've got my own brand that I sell and wholesale worldwide. So yeah, that keeps me really busy, which doesn't leave a lot of time for the podcast stuff.
Yeah, so she has like, she's like one of the major distributors of like hair extensions in Australia and elsewhere. Oh. And so she has her own line of that, and she's actually come up with different ways of making these and like putting them in. So she has like the patents on those as well. Wow. And other just hair care products and things like that, which she sells out individually. Like if they come into her salon, there's a salon in the house, and or like wholesales them out or sells them and ships them around. There's some people that have, you know, were following me and then followed her as a result. I'm like, oh my God, you do hair extensions? Those look so good. And can you send them and actually order them from America? Because with the currency difference, it's actually
works out a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it works out cheaper in America because it's it's like, I don't know, people seem to like them. You know, Elle spent like 4 years or something like that, like trying to source like the highest quality hair, and just found like this really good supplier, and then she like only goes through them. Wow. And she has like an exclusive contract with them in Australia. Like she's the only one that they will sell to in Australia because she buys so much from them. And it's very, very good stuff. And so people like them. And that person who was doing that, she like kept buying more. She's like, I need more. This is like the best stuff ever. And it's like, it's less expensive. So yeah, no, she's been very, very good at that. And she was sort of kicked out of her house as a teenager and had to just sort of figure it out and survive. And so she just started working and started thinking like, how do I make a better life for myself? How do I support myself and not just survive, but thrive? And she was just very motivated in that regard, and built up a very, very successful business. So it's really, really cool. And so she's in her podcast, she's just trying to relate some of those experiences to other people, so they don't have to, you know, spend years making the same mistakes. Sometimes they can just sort of, you know, jump a few rungs up, which is a lot nicer.
That's amazing.
That is so inspiring.
But the biggest takeaway, all right, is that it's pronounced Chaffee, not Chaffee.
Yeah, that is a big takeaway.
We all know that. Chaffee.
This whole time I'm just like, oh yeah, Dr. Chaffee, this, that, Dr. Chaffee, Dr. Chaffee. And Isabel's like, just when you see him today, just say Anthony. Okay, just don't.
Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. Please do go show your love and support for both Anthony Chaffee on his Instagram and YouTube, as well as Elle on her Instagram and podcast. If you guys enjoyed this style of video, couple to couple, talking about carnivore topics, feel free to also comment down below any carnivore couples you love that you would like me to invite on as guests. And if you have any video requests at all, you can also drop a comment down below. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notifications to not miss any of my future videos. You guys can all connect with me even more on Instagram. I post reels and stories every single day. I share with you guys what I'm eating every single day, what Steak and Butter Guy is enjoying as a new carnivore, and of course I share with you guys all of the adventures that I go on with my dogs Simba and Gouda. Again, if you guys are looking for a cheap, budget-friendly place to shop for carnivore staples, I highly recommend Thrive Market. I've experienced shopping from them for 3 months now, and they are excellent in quality, low prices, customer service, and quick shipping. So I'll make sure to link them down below in the description box. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you in my next video. SBG out.